It is January the 18th, 9:01 p.m. here on the west coast of the United States of America. This is the Apologia Center Wednesday night, late night for some of you guys on the East Coast, reaction time streams. We will either have a preset video that we are streaming through. Sometimes that's recommended by you guys. You guys email me or on Patreon or something like that. And at other times, we just take it live on the stream. Sometimes I come across something and I go, hey, that'd be nice to react to. And then we do that. Other times I just jump on here and some of you guys are like, hey, what about this video? Can you jump in there and let's react to it or something like that? And then we do that. So hopefully we're going to have a very exciting night. Drop a like. Let me know what's up. How you doing? Welcome. Grab a cup of coffee. No, it's late. Unless you're in Germany or something. But grab some tea. I got mine. Some of you guys might want herbal tea. I ran out of my herbal tea from Armenia, so I'm just drinking regular old black Persian tea. Yes, I do go to sleep after that. It doesn't bug me. Some of you guys get to stay up all night if you drink tea like that. But that's on you. So let me know what's up, guys. Hope you're doing well. I was perusing to see if there was anything that I could react to. I've kind of been out of the loop recently. Last couple of days, pretty much. I haven't really been in front of a computer that much, partly because I've had other stuff I got to do. Today, I wasn't even on my phone for like a majority of the day. I wasn't even near my phone. Because if those of you guys that don't know, it's been raining pretty kind of crazy here in Southern California, which is great. And with that rain comes the growth of many things if you have a house. And it's the growth of grass and weeds and all that stuff. And my backyard was out of control. So I spent quite a bit of time today bringing that into order as the Bible has commanded us to do, for us to reign and subdue the earth. So I was doing my part in that stewardship of the little piece of land that I have. And then also pruning stuff, pruning some of my rose bushes and then pruning my grapevine, which like I had to do that yesterday because it's starting to bud. So that's important. Just good old work. I like to get my hands in the dirt and be able to work with that. There's something really cool and awesome about that I enjoy quite a bit. And it was pretty good because I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 hours, I don't think I had my phone on me, which was really, really good, by the way. If you don't do that, that might be something you want to do, like put your phone somewhere and then go do stuff. Now, with that came a bunch of people trying to text me and call me and trying to see where I was, and some of them were worried. So, sorry if you're watching, but it was necessary. That needed to be done. We're kind of letting folks jump in here. If you got anything you want to say, drop a comment. Let me know what's up. I'm surprised we're not seeing some of our regular folks. I was listening to a really, really cool video yesterday. Now, this is a video that was put out. The thing is that it's kind of like technical and long and stuff like that, so that's why I don't want to react to it. I don't know. That's the other thing. I don't know how much I would have to say out on the subject, since the individual presenting the subject knows a lot more on it than me. But really, really was enjoying this, guys. I want to show you guys this So this is from Truth Unites with Gavin Ortland. And so Gavin dropped a video. I'm going to show you. Gavin dropped a video. The video is right here. You see that this one I've watched like about half of. This is a really, really good video. Very good video. Historical documentation, quotations from church fathers, arguments against icons, things of that sort. And specifically not like Christian art. He actually does a really good job of distinguishing between what would be like Christian art and then what has been icon veneration. But really, really good video. Highly recommend it. I highly recommend this channel, by the way. Gavin knows what he's doing and he's really good at what he does. So
these are just,
let's see. I want to share this link. One of these days, hopefully, we'll have Gavin on this channel, but for the time being, he seems to be busy. So, currently taking a break from Instagram, but taking a break from my phone is next level. I might have to try that. So yeah, I mean, I'm not taking a break from my phone. It's sitting right in front of me right here. But I took a break from it today as I was doing work. So that was cool. What up, PTI? You doing? Go ahead and hit that like button, guys. We got 7 people in here. By the way, I should say, for those of you guys that saw my post, that, let me see, hang on. That we are officially at 3,501 subscribers on YouTube. Congratulations, guys. Congratulations. To me, to you, to all of us. You guys have been extremely supportive. Actually, about an hour ago, we were at 3,500 exactly, which is cool because I was able to save that just exactly on that number. But 3,501, because we have a goal, and the goal is to get to 10,000 by the end of the year. Now we are, look, guys, January is almost done. More than halfway done with January. So we got goals. We got goals that we want to achieve, folks. Thank you, Lex. Yeah, it's exciting. It always is exciting to see hard work pay off. I mean, in anything, it doesn't matter what you're doing, right? Whatever it is that you're doing, it's really cool to see that the work that you're putting in is paying off. Now, I don't judge really the work that we're doing paying off by the amount of subscribers we have, but I judge it on like conversations I have with people, emails I get, people who are close to me sending me messages and then going out and having lunch, folks that are like in my community. I'll give you guys a really cool experience I had the other day. But folks that are in my immediate community coming up, there's a guy that I've befriended who's a parent of one of the kids that plays soccer with my youngest son. And he told me, hey, man, I was on YouTube the other day, and then you like randomly popped up to my feed and stuff. And his son was there. He came to me. He's like, I saw you on my TV. Like 4 or 5-year-old kid. And I was like, that's great. And he's like, how'd you get in there? So it's a really cool thing, but like just things of that sort. And here's a cool, and maybe I might have shared this earlier on in the week when we were having all sorts of technical issues, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I was at a wedding, and I was sitting down. This was last Thursday. I was at a wedding, and for those of you guys who are familiar with, remotely familiar with Armenian weddings, you know what it's like. Loud, lots of music, excellent food, and lots of it. And I was just, getting up, dancing, and then sitting down, um, and a guy came up to me and goes, no idea who he was, by the way, or I didn't know who he was. He approached me and he said, "Hey, I follow you on Instagram." And I was like, "Oh wow!" So I introduced myself, and then he told me his name, and he sat down. I said, "Have a seat," and he sat down next to me, and then we just got to talking about God and relationship with God and life difficulties. And I told him, "Dude, like, reach out to me, man. Like, you could have reached out to me on Instagram and said, 'Hey, what's up? What's going on? Can we grab a bite to eat or something like that?'" And we would have. And you know, we had a really good conversation with each other. But again, one of those things where I don't know this young man, but apparently follows me on Instagram and told me that some of my videos were very encouraging to him. And that was really cool to hear. And again, every once in a while, I get to see these. With some of you guys, I get to see it in the comment sections. And then some of you guys will actually send out emails and say, "Hey, here's what's going on." So appreciate all of that, because at times it could be discouraging. That's just the reality of it. But that is not to say that this is the only thing, I guess. It is not to say this is the only thing that is discouraging. I mean, we could do all sorts of different jobs and different work where the discouragement will kick in, right? So it is always good for all of us. And if you're a boss, right? Like if you're someone's boss, if you own a business, every once in a while, it makes sense for you to walk up to your workers individually maybe and encourage them on the work that they're doing, because it could get, and it does get, discouraging. And especially if you're in ministry. Encourage those in ministry that are with you. It is a good thing. Tell them that they're important. So yeah, what's up? Is there anything specifically that you guys might have seen recently that is worth us going over and maybe doing a little reaction video to? By the way, drop a comment and say hi. It's so funny how some folks are just like in the background, just hiding. Let's see. Or if you guys have other questions, side questions, you feel free to put it in there. Oh, let's check that out. Bigot NHL player puts his hatred, above his team. What a title. The Young Turks. The Young Turks. You mean that YouTube channel and organization that is named after a genocidal group, equivalent to if somebody made a YouTube channel named the Nazis? Those are the guys who titled this video, huh? Let's check it out, guys. 7-minute video. Let's see. Just give me a second as we pull this up. Okay. I don't watch the NHL. I don't watch hockey. If I didn't like soccer so much, I'd probably like hockey. That would be the other sport. That'd be because it's cool. I like it. Sticks, goals, pretty good. But let's see what's checking out here.
I respect everybody's choices. My choice is to stay true to myself and my religion. That's all I'm gonna say.
How do your religious beliefs?
Like I said, that's all I'm gonna comment on that. If you have any hockey questions, I would answer those.
Can you just clarify
What is your religion?
Can you clarify your religion?
Russian Orthodox.
This is Ivan Provorov of the Philadelphia Flyers. When the team held Pride Night, he refused to wear the rainbow-themed warm-ups. Head coach John Tortorella addressed the media post-game.
Really a great night. With Provi, he's being true to himself and to his religion. This has to do with his belief in his religion. And it's one thing I respect about Provi. He's always true to himself.
This is disappointing from Tortorella. However, at the end of the day...
Why is it disappointing? The guy actually knows the person. So there's a coach who trains every single day with that individual. If there's anybody that knows that individual, this hockey player, it would be his coach. Because he spends time with him. He works with him. He's his boss to a certain extent. And he's saying, hey, this guy's being true to himself. This is the sort of guy he is. This is the personality he has. But this commentator with the Young Turks is saying that this is disappointing.
He is John Tortorella, after all. Now, this is where we cannot and will not allow history to just be washed away. Because in 2016... John Tortorella said of San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick's protest, "If any of my players sit on the bench for the national anthem, they will sit there the rest of the game." That's when Tortorella was asked another question.
Was there any consideration on your part when he chose not to wear the jersey to not play him as a result?
No. I'm not going to answer many more questions.
The hard-headed Tortorella, who always has a beef with someone and is outspoken on just about everything, suddenly has very little to say. The irony. According to the Pew, Provorov's religion largely rejects the LGBTQ plus community.
Largely rejects? As far as I know, the Russian Orthodox Church's view is that it completely rejects. Not largely rejects, but okay. Hey, look, Armenia, top of the list. What is this? Most Orthodox Christians say homosexuality should be discouraged. It doesn't matter what most Orthodox or most Protestants or most Catholics think. This Pew, whatever, research, it should be what the religion teaches. And then whether individuals are in line with the teachings of their religion or not. I wonder, it would be very interesting to me. I'm genuinely speaking here, whether they would have made a big deal like this if the player in question was a Muslim. Would they have?
Believing it to be a sin. In fact, the head of Provorov's religion said,
This is shady reporting. The head of the religion, according to them, would be Jesus. If you mean the head of the church, that's a completely different question. Right? The patriarch, which is who they're talking about. The head of the religion? Like come on, man.
So-called homosexual marriages were a threat to families, and added that when laws are detached from morality, they cease being laws people can accept. He was equating LGBTQ plus rights to Nazism. According to the Times, the patriarch has made similar comparisons between marriage equality and authoritarianism in the past, saying in 2016 that
his name is Kirill. But he maybe doesn't know how to say it, so he's saying in 2016.
That homosexual unions were a form of Soviet totalitarianism that threatened humanity. Furthermore, their position is quite clear.
Kirill is a very controversial character. Let me just say that at the very least. I wouldn't necessarily defend him just like generally, but Just know that.
The subject. This is a very dangerous apocalyptic symptom, and we must do everything in our powers to ensure that sin is never sanctioned in Russia by state law, because that would mean that the nation has embarked on a path of self-destruction. Wow, that is a very far cry from what the NHL has sold us, isn't it? You know, the mantra of hockey is for everyone, including the celebration.
Wait, where's the connection there, guys? Hang on. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this. So the head of the Russian Orthodox Church made a bunch of claims about homosexuality, opinionated himself about totalitarianism, opinionated himself about, apocalyptic kind of stuff and morality and so on and so forth. And then he's jumping into like what the NHL has sold them. The NHL is not the Russian Orthodox Church, nor is everyone in the NHL a part of the Russian Orthodox Church. Like this one dude that's a part of the Russian Orthodox Church is saying, hey, my church is against this, and I'm going to refuse to participate in this one thing. What's wrong with that? Just refusing to wear a shirt.
Of Pride Month. So what did the Flyers do that was so offensive?
That's interesting.
To this small-minded man before.
Come on, man. I hate stuff like this. That's ad hominem attacks, just cheap shots and stuff like that. It's like just lousy reporting to this small-minded man. You work for an organization called the Young Turks. Forgive me. Let me drink some tea. My friend, you work for an organization that is run by a Turk, that is named after the Young Turks who committed the genocide against Armenians, Greeks, and Assyrians. That dude is small-minded, I guess. Maybe your research into the organization you work for is as shallow as the research you've done on this subject. How do I know that? You just called the head of the Russian Orthodox Church the head of his religion.
Game, the team wore warm-up jerseys with rainbow logos and wrapped their sticks in rainbow tape. Both the jerseys and the sticks, the team announced, were supposed to be auctioned off for charity. There was also a pregame skate for a local organization for LGBTQ plus youth. The Flyers gave complimentary tickets to the game to 9 LGBTQ plus organizations. That's what...
I know, huh? Man, what an evil man this guy is, because he doesn't want to wear stuff that's going to be auctioned off to charity, and that's the route you're going. That's the route you're going. We can see through it, right? But that's okay. Continue.
Grinds this guy's gears.
He's so evil.
Is that folks were instructed to have different colors on hockey tape.
This is called false equivocation, by the way. So if they were like, hey, everybody, we're having a fancy, crazy hockey stick night. Just have different color hockey sticks. Nobody would have had an issue. But that's not what's going on, right? But that's what he's reducing it to. No. What was going on was specifically for them to wear certain things, to do certain things in order for them to support a certain cause. Not, oh, he's scared of some colors.
And on their warm-up jerseys.
Oh.
And that folks in LGBTQ plus organizations were being recognized. Are you kidding me?
No, he doesn't want to support that, and he has a right not to. Last I checked, this is the United States of America. And he has a right not to support that. If the NHL wants to fine him, that's fine. I wouldn't necessarily be against that. If the organization he works for wants to fine him because they want to take the side of pro LGBTQ plus whatever stuff, that's fine. They can fine him. I think they're a private organization, and if they want to do that, they can fine him. They can say, hey, this is what our organization and our company wants to do. You're not for it. We're going to fine you. That's okay. And if the player says, that's fine, I'll take the fine, then that's on him. He'll take the fine and not do, but don't call him a, evil person because the guy is being true to his religion. Again, like I said, if this guy was a Muslim, would this gentleman who works for the Young Turks, I should add that again, an organization called the Young Turks, which is highly offensive to me and almost all Armenians I know, except one that works for them, who doesn't seem to have, I'll keep my opinion to myself on that.
How small-minded this person is. Broad Street Hockey's Madeline Campbell would write, Provorov has made it abundantly clear he's not a team player. He has taken...
What do you mean he's not a team? Of course he's a team player. He goes out on the field and plays with his teammates. How many of his teammates are like, that stop talking to him? Or are his teammates the ones who are being forced to do this and don't want the backlash, like stories like this, who just go on with it anyways, which most people end up doing that with anything, by the way. And then they're seen as like, oh, look at them. They're team players.
An exercise that the whole of the team participates in order to support an underserved section of their fan base, and made it about himself and his beliefs. He is...
Think about what they're proposing here, by the way. It's I forgot the word. Man, it's from the book. It's either from 1984 or Fahrenheit, the Fahrenheit book. Groupthink? Is that what it was called? Groupthink? I think it's called groupthink. That's what they're proposing. Like, look, everybody's doing it. The whole team is doing it. When I was young and I used to do stuff, stupid stuff, and then my mom would say, why did you do that, Arthur? And I said, because all my friends did it. And my mom would say, if all your friends went and jumped off a cliff, would you go jump off a cliff with them? Good question, Mom. Probably wouldn't. What these guys are saying, your whole team is going to jump off a cliff. Jump off with them because you want to be a team player.
Not the first Russian Orthodox player in the league who was asked to take part in his team's Pride Night celebration.
No, but not all Russian Orthodox people and not all people who claim to be a certain religion actually follow the teachings of their religion. That seems to be a pretty well-known thing, especially for someone who's a journalist. They should know this stuff.
He will not be the last. That's all others to date have shown up. When he couldn't is disappointing too. Now, some might remember the Detroit Red Wings as Pavel Datsyuk. Incredible handles, good deking. Well, he too cited his religion as the reason he does not believe gay people should have any rights whatsoever. The defector's Kelsey McKinney would add this of John Tortorella. People are allowed to hold hateful and awful beliefs. A head coach cannot force...
I love it's like, hey, no bias here. No bias here, right, guys? Yeah, people are allowed to hold... It's not hateful. It is not hateful for you to disagree with that. You're not hating anyone. I mean, I can't speak for this individual, but the position itself, the Christian Orthodox position, and I mean that not just the Orthodox Church, I mean that Protestant, Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Greek, Russian Orthodox. Nowhere does it say in the Bible that you are to be hateful towards, X, Y, and Z, right? It says these things are a sin, and we shouldn't be participating in sins, and we should be calling sins for what they are. And if you're going to be promoting a certain kind of lifestyle, or if you're going to be promoting, say, something that is fundamentally against the morality of your belief system, you have a right to reject it. It's just simple.
Player to warm up in a jersey he doesn't want to wear. But a coach is also free to inflict his own standards and rules on his players.
Correct, yeah.
And there was nothing stopping Tortorella from benching Provorov for the game.
Correct. But the coach, Tortorella, knows the player, Provorov, well because he practices with him all the time. And maybe the coach is looking at this and saying, I'm not going to make this an issue. I want my player to play. Because after all, the guy gets paid to play hockey, not to be a billboard for LGBTQ propaganda.
It's a simple principle, really. One coaches adhere to all the time. You don't practice, you don't warm up, then you don't play.
Yeah, but he's not the reason why he's not practicing is not because he doesn't want to practice. The reason why he's not practicing is not even because the coach said everybody's got to do this. It's because the organization said and forced everyone to do that. Right? So let's nuance these things very carefully because we want to be people who think well on these subjects. Because very clearly the quote-unquote journalism coming from the Young Turks isn't that good.
She would continue, as a head coach, your duty is not only to your team, but to your fan base. And on a night when the arena was filled with people who were there to celebrate Pride, when almost the entirety of the team chose to participate, Tortorella chose to let Ivan Provorov play. What shouldn't get lost is exactly...
I wonder how the game went, by the way. I wonder if like the entire fan base booed Provorov for not doing this. Some of you guys, please, in the comment section, if you watched that game, let me know how that went. Did everybody boo him? Was he horrendous? Did people throw stuff at him? Like, what happened?
Exactly what Kelsey is saying here. This was supposed to be a safe place, a place where we recognize you, we love you, we accept you for who you are. That is...
We accept you for who you are, except if you're a Russian Orthodox Christian, Provorov. We don't accept you. We accept you for who you are unless you actually practice the stuff you believe in, then we don't accept you. Does that make any sense?
What the NHL is sending out to its fan base. And best believe, you may not want to believe it if you're a hater. And if you're someone who thinks like this, there are gay hockey fans.
I mean, who in the world is walking around from this gentleman's perspective? That's a bad shot. Let me just forward it a little. Okay, so who's actually walking around on this planet thinking, man, there aren't any gay hockey fans? Does anybody even think that? Probably not. So why bring it up? Do you actually think there are conservative people like myself who support this gentleman's decision, walking around saying, no, hockey can't have gay fans? Like, who thinks this? No one. So it's if that was a paper, by the way, if this was a paper this guy was writing, I would just erase that part and say fluff, nonsense. You don't need it in there. It's useless.
Welcomed. This is a sport that has been so far behind. And Akeem...
So far behind what?
You.
Sorry, what is hockey behind? Hang on, guys. We got some... I'm going to come back to this. I really want to know what hockey is behind, but my screen went berserks. Love it when this happens. And let's see if it's working. Almost there. And there we are. Okay, I want to know what hockey is behind. Very curious here. We'll get to your comments soon, okay?
Has been outspoken on many issues. And yet here we are, with the league and team saying, we welcome you. This is a safe place. And Ivan Provorov saying, no, it's not. I don't.
Safe place for what is my question, right? Like, if the guy's saying, listen, man, my religion teaches that this thing is a sin, it's wrong, I don't want to promote it, I think it's wrong to promote it, right? Like, if that's what the guy's teaching, is that like just terrifying people? Or a bunch of like gay people running around and just like in shock and whatever other dismay that Christianity teaches these things? I mean, there's a good amount of them, by the way, that are trying to somehow internally reform and change Christianity to theologically justify the very fundamental moral teachings of Christianity. It's quite a bit of that. You don't see us running around pulling our hair out or our beards out, freaking out. I mean, we give reasonable responses to them as to why they're corrupting what the actual text says. We don't cancel them. We don't call them small-minded. Call them theologically incorrect. Some of them are brilliant guys and girls. They're just wrong. But this guy who works for an organization called the Young Turks, I can't get past that. Some of you guys might. I can't as an Armenian. Because every time I hear the name the Young Turks, I think about a group that committed genocide against my people. It is the equivalent of if there was a YouTube channel called the Nazis. That is exactly what the equivalent matter here is to me. Go do your research. All the leaders of the Young Turks, perpetrators of a genocide against Armenians, Assyrians, and Greeks. What do Assyrians and Armenians and Greeks have in common? And what did they have in common when the genocide was committed? Can't put my finger on it, guys. I really can't. I gotta think really hard here. Oh, they were Christians. Small-minded people, I guess.
Think this should be a safe place for you. And to also say that you respect everyone and then do that, you don't respect everyone. You're hiding behind the thin veil that is religion in order to promote your bigotry.
Okay, so
just be
nonsense there, by the way. He can respect people and think people are wrong. I respect everyone. I don't think I'm a bigot. I think homosexuality is a sin. I think that is wrong. I'm not a bigot. There isn't a bigoted bone in my body. I respect everyone. You want to sit down and have lunch and talk and debate? I'm all for it. Let's do it. I've had it. I've done it. With all sorts of people who disagree with me. All sorts of people. It is what the men's religion teaches. He's not hiding behind anything. He's not hiding behind his religion. That is what his religion teaches. But liberals, for some reason, for some really awkward reason, liberals just cannot understand this while they stand on their soapbox and preach liberalism. They cannot understand that there are people who believe in their religion, and their religion teaches something very clearly. What liberals really want is for you and I to change our religions or to reform our religions into something that accepts liberal ideology. In essence, what they want is liberalism as a religious ideology. If you let them have it, they would change Christianity into liberalism. Maybe with the name of Christianity so that people would still believe it. And contrary to what this gentleman might think, it ain't happening, man. And we're not small-minded. You are small-minded. I can very clearly say that. Because you happen to work for an organization called the Young Turks.
Real about it. Deadspin's Sam Fells would conclude, Torts is a hard ass until it really matters. If your religion teaches that some people are less worthy of rights, inclusion, and care because of who they are, your religion is a steaming pile of blank. Plain and simple.
Like I said, that's what liberals want. It's like, believe in your religion unless it disagrees with us, then no, don't believe in your religion. And I shouldn't say that because it's not even your religion. Because you don't see these same people doing this sort of stuff when it comes to other religions. At the very least, I don't see them doing it when it comes to Islam. Muslims believe this. Muslims believe homosexuality is wrong. Now, I don't know any Muslim players in the NHL, and well, I don't watch the NHL, so maybe there are. Maybe there are Muslim players in the NHL, and maybe there are Muslim players in the NHL who are actually not standing up for their belief system. Maybe they should. Maybe the Christians and the Muslims should get together and say, we're standing up for our religion. We disagree in regards to our religion, but we agree on this subject. And it'll be very interesting to see what these same media outlets will say and do. See, notice here, by the way, I should this individual he's quoting that some people who are less worthy of rights. That begs the question: where do rights come from? In the United States, at least our founding documents say that we get our rights from our Creator. Right. That then makes us ask the question of how do we know there's a creator, who is the creator, and X, Y, and Z. So rights are directly tied into, at least in the United States, to our Creator. The less worthy of rights, inclusion, and care. He's not excluding anyone. He just doesn't want to wear a shirt and some hockey sticks that are colorful. And care because of who they are. Notice here the religious conversation has nothing to do with the truth of the religion, but whether one agrees with the religion or not. It's like we don't frankly care whether you agree with us or not. We're more interested in the truth.
It is a frustrating reminder that even as sports organizations try to open up to all kinds of fans, there remain people with the power and influence to really make a difference in the game who do not seem to care.
Look, the fans can still go to the games. They like I'll give you an example. I was a season ticket holder for the Los Angeles Football Club. First season, inaugural season. I bought 2 season tickets. I would go with my son. We would watch the games. And there was a whole slew of folks, pro-LGBTQ stuff. This is Los Angeles, guys, right? Before the games, every day before the games, every time before the games, home games, they would be flying the LGBTQ flag. And, there was a bunch of stuff. It was in the stands, all that stuff. That bothered me, by the way. There I am with my 5-6-year-old son sitting there. I got to explain certain things to him that I don't want to because he's too young for those kind of conversations. But nobody cared about that. Nobody cared about what that did in the dynamics of my faith and what I saw and what my son was exposed to seeing. I felt unwelcomed. Would this guy care about that? I highly doubt it. This is the reality, I think, of American liberalism. It's either their way or you are, at the very least now, right now, because I don't think they have the power that they like to think they do. You're a bigot. You get name called. You're a bigot. You are a hateful. Well, whatever. Notice the moral judgments in this sort of a thing. You're a bigot. You're hateful. It's like, why are those things wrong? I think they're wrong, by the way, because I'm a Christian and I think I have foundations objectively in regards to like ontological realities and stuff like that, but that stuff might go over that guy's head. As to why I think being hateful is wrong, you stand on your soapbox and you preach to the rest of us. At the same time, you call our religion a blank word. I don't speak like that because I have morals. Let's jump into some of the comments. That was exciting. Man, that was 7 minutes. That got me really heated up. Seriously. That was 7 minutes, but I think I talked for like 30 minutes. I'm going to cut that out and post it. Okay. Comments. Tillyhawk, man, what did you do? Sheesh. Future said, what did I walk into? Yeah, great that the coach support him. Look, the coach is like, yeah, we're being forced to. Essentially, here's what I heard from the coach. We're being forced to do this by our organization, and we're going to do it. But if there's a guy in our midst that doesn't want to do it, cool. Doesn't want to do it. He's a good guy. We know him. He's consistent. He's X, Y, and Z. Now, I really hope that player is actually consistent in his Christianity and is not like, like most folks that I know who are not. So remember, of the LGBTQ or other groups can be true to themselves, but religious people can't. I know him. Double standards. I will say I don't agree with them benching players that don't stand for the national anthem. I would agree with you, by the way. It's a very unique thing here in the United States that sporting events have individuals, non-national sporting events have people that have a whole national anthem thing. So I follow soccer in Europe. Whenever club games are going on, right, like if Liverpool versus Manchester United, you won't hear, God Save the Queen or God Save the King now, right? You won't hear that. What you will hear is actually the anthem of the team, which I prefer a lot more. And if there's national games, like the World Cup just passed, and for those of you guys who watched it, national games, it's fine. They play both of the national anthems of the teams that are competing. That's completely fine. It's just like a uniquely American thing that I'm just like, why would you bench someone? It like gets way too politicized for some reason. So I agree with you. Just like the guy wearing the Jesus Saves shirt at the Mall of America. Yeah, Ruslan did it. I watched a portion of it. I haven't seen the whole thing. No way they would have tried to kick him out if he had a shirt that said something about Allah. I know, huh? I mean, look, it seems like those mall police, and I've interacted with actual cops. Those are rent-a-cops. Essentially, they're fake cops. They're not cops. Power gets to them real quickly. I've done preaching in open malls where the fake cops in that area got really heated because they didn't like what I was saying and started making up laws. And the reality is that they just do not know the law because they're not law enforcement officers. They are security guards that the mall has hired and get uniforms. If you do that for a job, don't let it get to your head. You're not a cop. This man has very long arms. Yes, that is a reach. I guess he's trying to say the NHL is supporting the Russian Orthodox Church by supporting the players. No, I mean, they're just not. Clearly not, because they have LGBTQ nights and stuff like that. They're clearly not. Neither the hockey team nor the NHL is supporting Russian Orthodox Church or anyone else for that matter. They're just saying you have a player. But let me put it this way. We have someone who works for our organization that has certain religious beliefs that do not allow him to partake in this. But we as an organization will support this. Are we under the weird assumption that if you have a company, everybody in your company is going to agree with everything that the leadership of that company do. That's virtually impossible, by the way, unless you strong arm everyone, you threaten them, you made examples out of people so that everyone else is scared to actually stand up and say, I suspect that there are a lot more players on that team that do not agree with the whole LGBTQ kind of stuff. They just don't want to get in trouble. I'm pretty sure that's the case. I end up shouting at my screen. Yeah, T could calm us down. Jumping through the comments, guys. This dude is so smug, which makes it even worse. I know, huh? That's why. What should I title this video? I should title it something like "Reporter who works for a company named after genocidal maniacs criticizes Orthodox Christian guy." It's something like that. I gotta. This should be interesting. Reporter who works for We'll see. I gotta work with it and see what I can do with that. Oh man. Moms love to use that one. Yeah, it is. It is. Shout out to the moms. Well done, moms. When your kids do stupid stuff, ask them whether they would jump, if all their friends jumped off a cliff, they would as well. It's because we're in a time when everyone is supposed to support everyone and everyone is finding their true selves and everyone has their own truths when it comes to Christianity and Jesus. It's almost always a problem. Correct. Well, we live in a time where it seems like people are being organizations. So culture is developed in this way. It's developed in a way where there's pressure on organizations to pressure the people who work for the organizations to support certain things, even if they don't. And you're going to see a backlash. This is not going to continue for a very long time, I'm telling you. It's going to get to a point where they're going to get confronted by folks who just no longer will take it. And then it's going to be pretty bad, in my opinion, which is not what we want. Who is, that's good. Who is walking around even thinking about a hockey puck stick people? That's offensive to all the folks that I know that like and love hockey. At the same time, obviously, people who are in the LGBTQ plus community should be treated with love and respect as people. As Christians, we obviously should just don't support the sin of homosexuality. Amen to that. Right? Like I said, I've sat down and had conversations with people of all types. I have never, I would say, I'm very confident in this. I don't think I've ever disrespected a gay person. Now, if they've felt disrespected because I said, hey, I think homosexuality is a sin or something like that, then there's nothing I can do about that, really. But I haven't said it in a disrespectful way. I think I've been kind and loving. If I haven't, then I'm very open to apologizing for that. But So this is what bugs me, is that when people come and say, oh, you're hateful, it's like, I don't hate gay people. That's just not true. And I'm fair across the board, right? Like, so fornicators, adulterers fall into the same category. I actually do use the word adultery because that's what the Bible calls it, instead of something like an open marriage, which you don't want to call it adultery. So you want to justify it and call it an open marriage. See how that works? The only reason I can get past this is because I'm not Armenian and I don't have those experiences. Now, knowing what the Turks did, yeah. That's a crazy thing, right? Like, you sit there like smug, thinking that you just are this morally, like, you got the upper ground on folks. It's like, get a life, man. If the world hate you, you know that. Correct. If the world hate you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. Correct. Imagine saying that this guy who you don't know doesn't respect everyone, then in the same breath disrespect him in every way possible. Phenomenal. I know how I just call him a bigot for hating Christians. The issue is that here's what they're going to do. They're going to say, but not all Christians believe this. The question is not whether all Christians believe this. It's like saying, do all liberals believe what you believe? No. Clearly, there's the liberals who don't believe in whatever the ideological kind of thing is for liberalism. You just can't have that. You have to sit there and say, what does the religion itself teach? Because there are inconsistent believers in any sort of system, in any worldview, in any belief system. There are individuals who claim that, but they're inconsistent with it. And so they'll always bring up examples like, oh, these Orthodox folks. By the way, I don't know why Armenia was listed in that whole number of Eastern Orthodox, because Armenia is not Eastern Orthodox, which is, again, one of those weird things when it comes to this Pew Research kind of stuff. I'm interested in that. Well, it just came to my mind to look that up. Okay. Okay, I'm curious about this. We're going to look at it, okay? So it says, Orthodox Christians largely reject homosexuality and oppose same-sex marriage. Here's the Pew Research Center saying, most Orthodox Christians say homosexuality should be discouraged, except in Greece and the U.S. Yes. Percentage of Orthodox Christians who say homosexuality should be or should not be accepted by society. Armenia says 1%. I'm not surprised at this at all, by the way. And let me tell you this. Even though Armenia is by name Oriental Orthodox, this guy's Russian Orthodox, so there's a confusion here in regards, but whatever. Well, just they don't know how to do this stuff well. We'll let it pass. The people that I know in Armenia and the Armenians that I know, at the top of the list, guys, only 1% of people in Armenia think that homosexuality should be, or homosexual, most Orthodox Christians say homosexuality should be discouraged. So 1% of Armenians think that homosexuality should not be discouraged. 98% think it should be discouraged. This is a purely cultural thing, I would say. Because the people I know that are very much against it are not Bible-believing Christians. They just think, look, I'll frankly speak, they think this stuff is disgusting. They think it's bad for society. These are the things that people won't say like in your face. They'll say in hidden rooms. And they're very inconsistent, right? These people, and this is my beef with them. It's like, you think this is wrong and it shouldn't be done, but you guys are committing adultery and you're fornicating and all this stuff. But see, I'm equally calling everyone out. They're all wrong. As a matter of fact, in my preaching regularly with folks of this sort, I tell them, you're inconsistent. You're agreeing with the Bible on one thing and disagreeing with the Bible on a bunch of things, and you can't do that. You got to agree on the Bible on all of it, because that's what the Bible teaches. So it's that. So it's a very cultural sort of thing that is the case. When I was in Armenia, there was a LGBTQ group there that was being essentially funded by some Armenians here in the United States, which talk about what's the word I'm looking for here? Imperialism. I call it ideological imperialism, which is what it is, by the way. When the United States and when liberals in the United States try to promote and propagate and finance their liberal ideas in other countries, it is ideological imperialism, which is very ironic since these same liberals are so against imperialism. But it's ideological imperialism. And very simply put, hey, liberals, get your ideological imperialism out of my home country. We don't want it. They don't want it. As you can see, the research very clearly shows. Stop it. But here's what it came down to is that, man, this is going to get me canceled in all sorts of ways. They tried to do a pride march. And I just thought it was a really bad idea, because there's people there that, it's not like the United States where they're going to protect you from violence. There are people there that will get violent. And I think that's wrong, by the way. So I was actually scared. I was like, man, these guys, here's what I was saying. My thought was, they shouldn't do this because it's dangerous. But even if they go out there and they do it, and somebody acts in a stupid way and acts in violence against them, then they're going to become martyrs for the cause, right? Like they got beat up and X, Y, and Z. And so I just didn't think it was good. But I think only 4 people showed up to this march. I'm just giving you a glimpse into the country. 4 people showed up to it. And I think it was a gay couple and a lesbian couple, which was, again, insane that they would actually do that. But it seems like they already had social media kind of fame in the country. Like, people know them as that. And that they were the only people that showed up, as far as I remember. Now, this is a couple of years back. So I'm not surprised that Armenia is at the top of this. Even though Armenia is not Eastern Orthodox or Russian or Greek Orthodox, it is. So, okay, I see what they're doing, because the guy is Russian and it's the Russian Orthodox. This is very lousy journalism. So here's what they've done. They go Russian Orthodox Church. Oh, my Lord. I see what they've done now. Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense why they did this. Hey, I got that thumbs down. What's up? I was waiting for it. I'll tell you how lousy this is and how ignorant of the region this is. I have so much stuff to say about this. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay. They're saying Russian Orthodox and then former Soviet republics. They need to realize that not everyone in those countries, as a matter of fact, most of the people in those countries are not Russian. And since they're not Russian Orthodox. Georgians are Greek Orthodox. And if you want to know the difference, there's slight differences there. The Ukrainians who are listed here, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church split from the Russian Orthodox Church, maybe the largest church split since the Reformation. Recently. As a matter of fact, sorry, I should say the Russian Orthodox Church kind of split from the Greek Orthodox Church. It's huge, huge news. They have Kazakhstan here. Kazakhstan. And I have a question here, and I'm going to do, let me put this up. Religion of Kazakhstan. Now, here's the uniqueness in this. This is exactly what I thought, by the way. I wanted to pull this up for you guys. This is the religious makeup of Kazakhstan. In 2019, CRA study shows that 92.8% of the population self-identifies as religion. According to 2009 census data, approximately 70% of the population, 70% of the population identifying as religion, as religious is Muslim. Most of whom adhere to the Sunni Hanafi school. Other Muslim groups include the Shafi'i, Sunni, Shia, Sufi, and Ahmadi. It seems to me that this gentleman that works for the Young Turks didn't do his research. He just pulled up a random poll. Like, it took him 3 minutes to do this research. Pull this up. It's like, oh, look at these countries from the former USSR and how many percent in there believe that homosexuality is. Armenia is not Russian Orthodox. They're Oriental Orthodox. Kazakhstan is Muslim, majority Muslim. Has nothing to do with the Russian Orthodox Church. You silly, silly man. And you have the audacity to stand there and call someone small-minded? Man. I'm going to jump to your comments. Hi, what's up? Oh, this is a good question, Future. Are the Young Turks genocide deniers? No, they're not. Fair credit to them. Cenk Uygur, he wrote a paper in college denying the Armenian genocide. He has since been called out on that many times, and has also come out and say that was stupid. He didn't know any better. That when he was growing up in Turkey, they were teaching them all sorts of false stuff, like that Turkey had only lost one war in the history of Turkey. By the way, these are stuff that are actually taught in Turkey. And so on and so forth. And he explained that he didn't know any better, that when he learned and did his research, then he realizes that the genocide took place, and so on and so forth. My response to him would be, why are you not changing the name of your company? Like, imagine if somebody didn't know the Nazis were a bad group and ended up naming a company the Nazis. And that company became really big, and then he realized, whoa, man, the Nazis were bad. Like, this is serious bad news. Would you not expect that company to change their name? I'll give you an example. In this town, in a town near us where I grew up, Glendale, California, there was a building project. It's a large building project that was coming up, and they were building it. And then when they build it, they had named the place, the building, Isis. Now look, Isis is an ancient Egyptian deity. Plenty of folks that are familiar with this stuff will know that, right? Like, if you know basic elementary school, you paid attention in to Egyptian mythology, you would know that. But when ISIS got big, I mean the terror group, Daesh, right? When they got big, the Islamic State, guess what this company did? They changed the name of their building. They got rid of ISIS. Why'd they get rid of it? Just bad publicity. They didn't want to have any relations to them. Now, none of these guys were probably Arab, Muslim, like folks. Not that I know of. Right? They just changed bad publicity. I mean, it's even worse when the company's founder is a Turk. And he might have done it in hey, we're a bunch of young guys and we're Turks. Let's call ourselves the Young Turks. I mean, you can't be that ignorant of Turkish history. But let's just say that is. It's like bad publicity, bro. But the issue is that most Americans are completely unaware of proper world history. Did you guys know that there is a community of LGBTQ plus Christians? It's definitely deceptive, and this is why we need to know the Holy Scriptures. Yes, we know that. I know that very well. and there's plenty of TikTokers and some folks, priests and pastors that are LGBTQ affirming, and their videos are being shared, and people are like, look at them, they know what they're talking about. They know what they're talking about. Comments. Eat honey, be happy. Hey, what's up? You don't have to reply, but come on, Arthur. Do you think gay people choose to be gay? Who would choose to beat up? Who would choose to be beat up and disowned by their families? I hear this quite a bit. And my response to this is, first and foremost, I think homosexuality is not just like a choice. Okay? What do I mean by that? I mean, it's not like someone just woke up one day and they were like, should I have breakfast or not? Not. It's not like that, right? It's like someone woke up one day and said, I think I'm going to be gay. I think that is a caricature of what Christians say. Everything is a choice. Here's what I'm saying. Everything, by saying everything is a choice, here's what I mean. That you and I make decisions on how we conduct our lives. And those things have desires built in them. Those things might have physiological factors in there. Those things might have psychological factors in there. It's all included. So I'll give you an example. Somebody cheats on their spouse. And they are confronted that what they did was wrong. And the individual says, I don't think that's wrong. That's just the way I was born. I'm attracted to various females and I prefer to sleep with them. And you go, no, but then they go, no, but you don't understand. Like, the attraction is very strong. Like, I need to have it. And my body goes through certain things. My mind goes through certain things. And what we would say is, no, you could stop that. You can actually choose not to do that. And you should. Now, the only response that comes from, I would say, the non-Christian side on this subject would be, but you've come into an agreement with someone who you've essentially confessed that you're not going to cheat on them. By the way, notice where our society is going. Open marriages, multiple wives, group marriages. It's all going in directions where that commitment is no longer there. That monogamous commitment to one another is no longer there. Because people have justified their actions so much. They get cheated on. They cheat on people. They get cheated on. They don't want to feel bad about it. So what do? They go, we're not going to call that bad. Like, you're okay. It's okay for you to go do that. I'm cool with it. So everything is a choice, and we have the ability to stop. Right? We have the ability to stop is what I'm saying. That doesn't mean we always act out on that ability. We have the strength and power and ability to stop doing certain things. Now, is that easy? Is it hard? It's very hard. It's very hard. But the way I see it is very simply goes back to Jesus' teaching. Let's just use heterosexual straight guys as an example that Jesus is speaking about. You've heard it said that you should not commit adultery. But I say to you, if you lust after a woman in your heart, or if you lust after someone's wife in your heart, then you've committed adultery with her in your heart. You think that's not hard for me? You think that's not hard for any guy I know? I don't justify it. I don't say I was born like this, which I was, by the way. I was absolutely born like that because, and Christianity has a justification for that in the sense that we're born with the sin nature. We were actually born like that. Male and female have lust problems because it's in our nature. But we're called to not do it because it's wrong. So even if I grant someone is born like that and they don't choose to be like that, I would say you should refrain from it. I'm going to show you guys a little video soon on this subject of a New Testament theologian who is same-sex attracted. who's attracted to guys. And he says it's wrong, and I don't act out on that. Because he believes what the Bible teaches. So that's a brother of mine in Christ. And that's his struggle. And plenty of other brothers I have other struggles. I have certain struggles that come with me being born a sinner. This really is not that complicated. In regards to, I think, the other part of the question, who would choose to be beat up and disowned by their family and so on and so forth, I think that was probably a comment that was true, in America at least, a certain amount of time ago. It might be true, and it is true in a good amount of the world. But I don't think it's any longer true. That's sort of kind of, and by the way, it pulls on your heartstrings, and it's meant to do that. I would say people do all sorts of crazy stuff. People make all sorts of choices because they essentially will, it's like a risk reward kind of judgment they make. It's like, do I really want this thing really, really bad? Yes, I do. But it's going to bring with it these consequences, right? These things are going to happen, but I'm going to go for that anyways. And then they do. That's just probably not the best breakdown I could have given. The first part, it was okay. I think I gave a pretty decent breakdown. The second part, I'm not sure. But that's essentially where the conversation is. And I think everybody is born a certain way, and then we choose whether we're going to be okay with that or not. And I would go as far as to say the Bible commands us, and not only that, but actually respects us as human beings, to tell us just because you have desires and feelings and inclinations doesn't mean you should act out on those things, because there's a higher moral rule that judges this situation. If you have a backup to that, I'd love to respond to that. It's easier to answer what do specific groups of Christians believe instead of what does Christianity teach, because of how vague or silent the Bible is about many issues. So when we're talking about like the basic fundamental stuff, like the foundational stuff, Christians all disagree about that stuff. Sorry, what did I say? Did I say disagree? Christians agree on that stuff. Like, it's not that complicated, actually, when you do your reading and research. It's not that much difference. Like, most of the differences that you're talking about is on secondary issues. I have an Iranian friend who also isn't religious at all, but he's strongly against homosexuality. I have thousands of Armenian friends who are not Christians by any stretch of the imagination, who are adamantly against this stuff. For example, I've been struggling to find out what position Jesus would take on cloning. Well, yeah. So you got to have a certain kind of breakdown, and you're going into philosophical circles and then arguments about the soul and what we're going to do with clones. So this is an ethical kind of thing. It's maybe your struggle is like, what would Jesus' position be on cloning? I would just say, what does Christian ethics teach on the cloning subject? Write to me. I'll try to get you some ethics papers written by Christians on the subject of cloning. That might be of help. Generally, I would say Christians would be against cloning and are. Grace and peace to you. Take care. I'm not a Young Turks fan, but the dictionary defines them as rebels for change. Which Young Turks? I gotta look this up. The Young Turks. That's a nice definition by the dictionary, is it not? So the thing is that when I put the Young Turks, it's these new guys show up, not the genocidal maniacs. So, okay, I got something here. This is out of Wikipedia. Young Turks was a political reform movement in the early 20th century that favored the replacement of the Ottoman Empire's absolute monarchy with a constitutional government. They led a rebellion against the abusive absolute rule of Sultan Abdul Hamid II in 1908 in the 1908 Young Turk Revolution. With this revolution, the Young Turks helped establish the second constitutional era in the same year, ushering in an era of multi-party democracy for the first time in the country's history. Let's move on to say that's worldly. It's very interesting that Wikipedia doesn't even have anything to say here about the genocide. Origins, Congress, World War One, Armenian genocide. I've never even seen this page, so it'd be very interesting here. The conflict at the Caucasus campaign, the Persian campaign, and the Gallipoli campaign affected places where Armenians lived in significant numbers. Before the declaration of the war at the Armenian Congress of Erzurum, the Ottoman government asked the Ottoman Armenians to facilitate the conquest of the Transcaucasian by, it's the Armenians' fault they were all killed, inciting a rebellion among the Russian Armenians against the Tsarist army in the event of the Caucasian Front. Listen to this. Jacob Kunzler, head of the missionary hospital in Urfa, documented the large-scale ethnic cleansing of both Armenians and Kurds under the three pashas during World War I. He gave detailed account of deportation of Armenians from Erzurum to Bitlis in the winter of 1916. The Armenians were perceived to be subversive elements, a fifth column, that would take the Russian side in the war. This doesn't mention, by the way, there's a bunch of Armenian politicians that were also killed. By the end of World War I, up to 1.2 million Armenians were forcibly deported from their home villages. Deported. As a result, about half of the displaced died to exposure, hunger, and disease. I love this. Man. I'm not going to read anymore. It just pisses me off. Whoever wrote that. It is Wikipedia. Very clearly a Turkish sympathizer wrote that. They just happened to die. Not they were killed and stabbed and raped. Yeah, well, dictionary is stupid for defining the Young Turks as a... It's like defining the Nazis as a bunch of socialists. Right? Right. So here's I just randomly pulled something up from the history.com. The National Socialist German Workers' Party or Nazi Party. It's like, oh, what are Nazis? Oh, they're just National Socialists. That's it. That would be the equivalent. After the fall, everything went downhill. We're all born into sin. Amen. It could be a woman who's in the practice of homosexuality, or it could be a man who multiplies sexual partners. It's a sin. Amen. We need to be born again. Correct. And that's essentially what I tell people. It's like, well, you think you were born like that and you can be born again. Like, I was born with like the issues that I have. Christ can change you. I'm going to show you guys a video. I promise you guys to show a video. And this monitor is not working. It's annoying me. Let's see. By the way, he's written a book that you guys might want to read, called Washed and Waiting. Trying to find that specific video because I don't want to have you guys sit through like a very long lecture. And not everybody agrees with, obviously, stuff that Wesley Hill says. As a matter of fact, there's a number of things that I personally disagree with what Wesley Hill says. Terminology and stuff like that, I think. But generally speaking, I've heard the man speak, and I think he's pretty articulate, does a pretty good job speaking about this subject.
I describe in the introduction to the book that I faced 3 primary struggles, which prompted me to write the book. The first struggle was just wanting to understand why God would say no to same-sex relationships. What's the biblical rationale for that? What's the gospel reason for saying no to same-sex relationships? And the second struggle was, how does one deal with loneliness? How do you live a single celibate life in a way that promotes flourishing and joy and peace? And the third struggle was the struggle of shame, feeling that I ought not to be feeling these things. This is something that has gone wrong in my life, and I feel displeasing to God in the process of wrestling with it. I hope that readers will gain an empathetic understanding of those struggles, that they'll be able to better get inside those struggles and see what it feels like to be experiencing those firsthand, and that they'll be better equipped, those who are facing those struggles themselves, better equipped to deal with those before God, and those who are not facing them firsthand but maybe walking together with a friend who's facing them, that they'll be more equipped to sympathize with that friend and to have honest conversations with that friend, and that the church will be built up into a healthier community as a result.
So, yeah, I think he's, the stuff he addresses, and I've seen him speak in person. And again, I don't agree with everything that he says, but I think generally the fact that he actually says, hey, look, it's a sin. I got these attractions. I try to control them to the best of my abilities. And it is what the New Testament teaches. It is what the Bible teaches. And so I'm going to live my life as a celibate man. And it is like the equivalent maybe of that would be like someone who really, really wants multiple wives, I would say, and is really attracted in that sense, saying, here's something I really want, but no, not going to have that because the Bible says it's not good. It's not right. Or somebody who just, if that's not your cup of tea, somebody who just wants, which is like all of us, by the way, I don't want to say all of us, but a good amount of us, right, who would have wanted to and do want to have premarital sex. And it's like, no, the Bible says, no, it's wrong. And you got to deal with that. And you struggle with that. You have these desires and you really want it, but the Bible says, no, it's not right. So you don't do it because it's a choice, even though you have these strong desires. Simple. Well, not, the explanation is simple. It's actually very difficult. My ex-girlfriend's brother opens a very popular gay bar in West Hollywood. If you only knew how many funerals he went to of men that didn't want to be gay and families turned their backs. Yeah, look, I'm not denying that, and I think that's a reality. Like I said, I think it's becoming, like, we have a completely different issue that's going on probably in our day and time, specifically like the transgender kind of stuff. And like I said, in some parts of the world, it's really bad. We all just want to be loved and not alone. Amen to that. I don't disagree with that. I mean, the video I just played has a guy who's speaking about, a good portion of his book speaks about loneliness. What does that look like? The paper I heard from him was speaking about, like, can there be platonic relationships in which it encourages flourishing, in the sense that flourishing is encouraged in marriage, sort of, which was like a very interesting kind of scholarly conversation that was going on. It was very interesting to me. And then, as someone who's a leader in the church, actually thinking about that, and then having people who are same-sex attracted, that and how to counsel that pastorally, how to counsel them pastorally, how to speak to them and understand them. Like, this isn't stuff that I haven't dealt with. It's not that I don't know how people feel and what goes through it. It's like, well, am I going to sit there and justify the actions of a 40-year-old guy who hasn't been able to get married and wants to have sex, and then tell them, well, you know what, man, you've waited a bit. I mean, you have this strong desire. Go and have sex before you're married. Or am I going to stand with what the Bible says and say, no, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. And if you really want that, find a spouse. And if you're not going to find a spouse, it's going to be a continuous battle, right? So everybody is in a struggle and a battle. Every Christian is. There's no question about that. It's just those struggles and those battles are different. And people just don't seem to understand this very much. That's a very simple way of explaining this stuff as Christians. So, yeah, it's interesting the way you put this. I was kind of confused as to whether you were saying the families were the cause of their funerals. It's just like nobody went because they turned their backs on them. Yeah. Now I would want to. It's very difficult. What was I watching the other day, man? I was watching something. I forget what it was, but it was essentially someone like coming out to their dad, and it was a guy saying that. I think it was a guy that was saying, "I'm transgender. I'm a woman." Sorry. No. Yeah. So it was a guy saying, "I'm transgender. I'm a woman," to the dad, saying, "I'm not going to be the son that you've always wanted. I'm going to be your daughter," and so on and so forth. And I'm watching this thing, and this person's this whole thing is being shown as like, what a hero, how strong, and so on and so forth. And I'm thinking about this as a father, right? So I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of that father and saying, what if this happened to me? What if my son came and said something like and again, I got young kids and I love them dearly, right? Like, nobody speaks about the kind of pain the father is going through in that situation, is what I'm trying to say. The kind of hurt. Like, people go, oh, he should just be loving and accept that person for who they are. Really? Like, you're not even going to consider that is very painful and hurtful for a dad who has cared and loved and nurtured and provided and just like everything that goes into being a dad, with your son or your daughter coming out and saying something like that to you. Like, that's painful. But you be you, right? Like, I'm just the slogans. It's painful either way, is what I'm trying to say. But it's only one side that it gets spoken about. So I get it that, a lot of families turn their backs. I mean, I've heard Christians do horrendous stuff to family members, and it's wrong. I mean, I've had to apologize on behalf of Christians, Christian parents, regarding the way that they acted and treated. I remember there's one situation. This was back on Periscope, and a guy jumped into my chat. He called actually, and he was gay. And he said, I grew up in a Christian home, and when I told my parents that I'm gay, they went crazy. It's like, they threw Bibles into the shower, and like, for me, it was like, that's like, who would do that? So we had multiple times really good conversations with this guy. I actually apologized to him. I was like, dude, I'm sorry that your parents did that. That is not Christ-like. That is not what the Bible teaches us to do. In any situation, ever. They were wrong. So for me, it's like, I get it, but people just don't know how to deal with this stuff. I mean, but my parents didn't know how to deal with what it was like for me to listen to rap. Like, seriously. Like, you think they would know how to deal with that? Like, the kind of cultural shock something like that would be, something that they've like only heard of in weird in their mind, right, in really weird places, and now it's in their family. Like, we gotta understand the situation on all sides is what I'm trying to say. Have families turned their backs on people? Yes, yeah, they have, but it's very difficult for those families to deal with news of that sort. Like, I will say this, for me, if I was in the shoes of those parents, I wouldn't say that I would turn my back on my children, but those relationships would be greatly harmed, right? That would be a big blow to that relationship. So we have to be understanding in all sorts of, like, in all sides, I guess. I believe it's impossible to resist the unnatural desires unless you are born again. AJ, I don't know whether, like, when you say unnatural, that would be, sin brings about all sorts of unnatural desires that tend to be like felt like natural, right? So like, is wrath unnatural? Like, right? Like, but people control themselves and they don't act out in wrath. Right. So, like, you need to go through this kind of conversation and with a fine comb. It's like, be very careful when you make those statements, AJ. This is a very nuanced conversation at the very least. Amen to that, man. You can say God made them that way. My opinion is it's an established anomaly, socially acceptable in ancient Rome. Yeah, it's very clearly accepted in ancient Rome and Greece. It's very accepted. But it's not accepted the way we think it to be accepted. Right? Where we actually, in our culture, have normalized and are normalizing it and calling it marriage, where you don't really see it called that. There is same-sex relationships. Some of them are like essentially in the form of a discipleship, right? Like, there's like one older guy who's teaching the younger ones, or there's disciples slash sex partners who tend to be younger, and it's those sort of stuff. But like, a lot of those folks actually had a wife and would have kids. The issue, I think, was culturally kind of viewing women as lower, even viewing women, it's like, hey, you have to procreate, and the only way you can do it is with women. Or even viewing women lower and then viewing men higher, and therefore, like, your sexual relationship partner is like of an equal sort of kind. There's things of this sort, but socially acceptable norms, something being socially acceptable, I mean, this is very clearly the case, I would say. Just because something is socially acceptable doesn't mean it's right. Very, very simple. So what if something is socially acceptable? We ought to question a bunch of stuff that were socially acceptable for us, and then be able to reflect on that. I think it's only a sin against nature if you do it just for gratification. The issue is that when you say something like sin against nature, nature is not a conscious entity. For it to be, it's even weird to speak about this, right? Because in this way, because nature is not going to get offended to your actions. And to say something is a sin against nature, all you mean to say is it's not the way things are. It's like, so what? And notice I would add to that, it's like, why is it even a wrong thing to do something just for gratification? Why is that such a wrong thing? Because it's not like nature is sitting there saying, anybody who does anything just simply for gratification, that must be a wrong thing. you have a higher moral standard for some reason from somewhere, right? And you're saying if you do something just for gratification, therefore it's wrong. So, but where does that come from? That kind of ideology and thinking. It's nature that we're born to reproduce. It's our main purpose to continue the species. Correct, but notice how monogamy would go against this. Like if the whole purpose is for us to reproduce and become many and for us to continue our species, then polygamy, right, would be the ideal state. Monogamy would not. And then whether you enjoy it or not becomes completely secondary, because all you're doing it is for reproduction. Let me warn you of something here, because I think this commits the naturalistic fallacy, right? Being the idea with the naturalistic fallacy is that you can't get an ought from an is. You can't look at the way things are and then conclude that they ought to be a certain way. And I think this sort of an argument creates, this sort of an argument commits the naturalistic fallacy. I'm with you on the marriage thing. It's gone ridiculous. Trans activist pronouns exposure to children is crazy. I don't see it stopping, because there's an end goal. By that I mean, I don't think like there's like a elite folks sitting there saying, this is where we want to take stuff. I mean that any kind of an ideology has a telos. It has a purpose or a design to it, and it's intended to go a certain place. And I don't think society is going to be okay with where it's going, generally speaking. And this is why I think we're seeing certain kinds of reactions in pockets, and we're seeing them of the bad sort. We're not seeing them in the, let me be very frank here, we're not seeing it in the nuanced, loving, caring sort that I'm presenting to you. The sort we're seeing it is red pill community, Andrew Tate followers. We're seeing it in that sort. And I think we're going to see more and more of it in that sort, because that stuff actually tickles the ears of the natural man. That stuff tickles the ears of the fallen man, the sinful man. It appeals to the wrath that is uncontrollable. Think about like all the people that are out there that are talking about like, this is the way a man should be. Like you should be a beast, like just a monster that nobody can control. The only person I've seen that actually has rationally spoken about this, who's not a Christian, is Jordan Peterson, who says, look, every man should be dangerous, but you should be controlled. You should control yourself. And I'm talking about like men, specifically men. Right? So, but that's the direction it's going to go into, and I think it's going to be pretty bad. Yes, monogamy is against nature. So is morality. The strong protecting the weak, allowing them to reproduce, is against nature. Is morality part of evolution or contrary to it? Deep question. This is a huge problem with evolution, by the way. This is one of the arguments against evolution from a philosophical perspective. At the very least, is like, how do we get moral? Like, when is it that we evolve moral understandings? Where do we get this stuff from? And when? In the evolutionary process, when is it that human beings start becoming moral? The issue with evolution, in one sense, is that evolution produces, or Darwinism, I should say, not evolution. Darwinism produced a view called social Darwinism, which is essentially a Darwinian system of morality in nature, in society, sorry. So it's not that it's a deep question per se. I would say very simply, morality transcends nature. It actually tells you how to live in the midst of nature, because morality is a transcendent sort of thing. To say morality is built from the ground up is an incorrect way of thinking. And this is why I think the moral argument is such a good argument against against atheists and atheism. Because you have to establish absolute morality. One of the issues is that lots of folks, what happened here? Lots of folks actually, for protecting or for the cause of protecting their Darwinian thinking, actually throw out the moral stuff. And they completely bite the bullet and go full on relativism. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at with what you're saying. So monogamy is against nature, correct? So why should we follow it? If you're saying be okay with one of it because it's natural, it's in nature, so we should be okay with it, why shouldn't we be okay with it in the second case? Why is it such a bad thing? Where do you get those morals from? And the reality is that you get it from a Judeo-Christian worldview. You get it from a biblical worldview because this is the sort of stuff the Bible teaches. Well, folks, it's been a great evening. Really enjoyed speaking with you guys tonight. There's something I should say. I was planning on going live tomorrow, midday. But as some of you guys know, the other day we had all sorts of weird internet issues and stuff kept showing that it's not the right speed and download and upload, whatever. We're just essentially having connection issues. And what I did is I called and upgraded my internet speed and my upload speed specifically. Well, all that stuff arrived and we put it all together. And then I realized that I'm not getting the speed that I'm supposed to be getting. So I called the internet provider and we were on the phone for a little bit and, rebooting and testing and what they were seeing on their end and what I was seeing on my end just wasn't connecting and stuff. And they said, hey, Art, we're going to have to call out a technician to come out and look at your stuff in person because something's off and we don't know what it is. And I mean, it's quite a bit of money to pay monthly and not get what we're paying for. So tomorrow the technician is going to come around the time that I usually do my live shows. If the technician leaves and everything is fixed and properly ordered by 1 p.m., then we should be good. I'll jump on live. If the technician doesn't, then we will not have one tomorrow, but we will on Friday for our live Q&A. So just giving you guys a heads up in regards to what's going on. I've read as we had better nutrition and more interactions, our brains developed enough to achieve morality. There's so many things wrong with that, by the way. Brains achieving morality, that makes no sense, by the way. Brain, like, I don't know how to explain it. It just, again, it doesn't make sense. A brain doesn't achieve it. The brain is just a thing. It is an organ. It is equivalent to saying, well, we had all this sort of stuff happening and then my fingers did X, Y, and Z. Or your heart or whatever like that, right? The fact that some people assume your brain, because of certain thing, produces consciousness is just complete and utter nonsense. The best researchers on the subject of consciousness and the brain and the relationship between the two will tell you, we don't know. This is a serious problem. And they're physicalists. But if you're not a physicalist, then you can answer the question very easily. That your brain doesn't produce consciousness and morality is not that sort of a thing. So, yeah, I suppose ant colonies work in unison with the strong and weak. Interesting stuff. Yeah, but you don't see in the animal kingdom a bunch of lions get together and prosecute another lion for doing something wrong. You never see this in any of the animal kingdom. Ivan, what's up? Hey, Arthur, I would love to see you do a reaction to Orthodox Kyle and Orthodox Christianity as a whole. Well, I'm not sure whether I'm equipped enough to do some kind of a reaction to that. It would have to be like a specific thing. But I recommend that you guys watch a video that earlier in the stream. If you go back to the beginning of the stream after this, check out Truth Unites. He's got a video on venerating icons. Actually, like he says, one of the things he says in it is, for this reason, you should become a Protestant, like, or just not be Orthodox or Catholic. Just this, which I think is very interesting. And I haven't watched all of it. I've watched about half of it, and I thought it was very interesting. Maybe you should check that out. And so Gavin would be a much better person to speak, and maybe I can have him on and we can have a discussion on this. He would be a lot better on the subject than me. That's just not in my strong kind of thing. But yeah, I wouldn't mind. I mean, depending on the subject that's going on. We could do a whole rabbit holes for hours in the brain and consciousness. Look, I've done quite a bit of reading on the brain and consciousness and the existence of the soul. I mean, that's a part of doing philosophy, especially when you do philosophy of mind. But I will tell you that the physicalists have no ground to stand on, and they say a bunch of words that essentially don't make sense in regards to how consciousness could come about from mere physical matter. So if you're interested, you could actually read a physicalist who's one of the better ones, named Jaegwon Kim, on consciousness. You grab any one of his books and read it. And that's a physicalist guy I'm telling you to read, right? It's not a guy who believes, he actually believes that consciousness is a result of the brain. But yeah, I'll leave it there. So guys, we've been on almost 2 hours, so it's late. Thank you. That was exciting. It was fun. I had a blast. Thanks a lot. I got to come up with a cool title for that segment on the Young Turks guy. With all that said, guys, good night. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you guys. We've officially hit 3,500 subscribers. We were at 3,501 when the stream started. Maybe we've gone past. So if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. Drop a like if you haven't liked this video. It always helps with all that stuff. We got 12 likes and 2 dislikes. We beat that 1 dislike and went to 2. So appreciate you guys too, the dislike folks. Appreciate you. So yeah, take care, guys, and I will see you guys, if not tomorrow, then Friday.